All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wholesaling the Cool Way. I'm your host today, Jasper Cool, here with my dad, Mark Cool. And if you're new to this podcast, what we like to talk about is our respective businesses in North Carolina. We're both wholesaling throughout the state. And typically, we like to kick off our podcast by sharing some inspiration or podcasts or books or anything like that that we've learned from or taken inspiration from over the past week. So, you have anything like that you want to share?
Uh, I've been revisiting Naval this week, which I always like, and I'm looking at doing some stuff, on social media and other things I want to do outside of real estate. But anyway, Naval has a great podcast, Naval Ravikant, and there's one episode I really like. The how it's I think it's called How to Get Rich. If you've
Yeah.
listened to that, right? It's
Yeah.
like the episode about his tweet. He did a whole tweet storm on Twitter, like multiple tweets in a row about just ideas of building wealth and principles of getting, getting rich. He did as like a tagline because he knew it would get clicks, but it's
Yeah.
about building wealth and mindset and just nuts and bolts and common sense about it. So I've been enjoying that, and part of why I wanted to listen to that is because he does talk about social media and how it really evens the playing field for everybody, and how the internet allows you to reach like your tribe and your audience and your niche. You don't have to, it just gives there's billions of people on the planet, and now we can reach everybody. So it's more easy to reach the whatever 50,000 people who will follow you or believe in what you're doing and want to be a part of it. So
Yeah.
he talks about a whole lot more than that, but I'd highly recommend it. It's called I think his podcast is just Naval, Naval, and
Hmm.
there's so much great stuff on there. And there's a book that I usually listen to once every couple of years, which is the Naval Almanac, and
Yeah.
that's got this same content in it, the building wealth, but other stuff about philosophy and you know, kind of like I don't know, possible ways to live your life that would be healthy and in integrity and fulfilling. Really good stuff. So anyway, I recommend that.
So many
Um,
hustlers and salespeople who
whoops,
have nothing to back them up.
accidentally
When
played
you're
it because I was
starting
trying to look it
out,
up. Um, and then I revisited because I am doing this. Starting to look at how I'm going to do social media stuff. I revisited Derek Sivers, and um, he has a really cool article on the web. I think it's just on his website, and it's about creating your own independent website and how to do that so that you're not reliant on any companies, any servers, anything like that. You can have
Hmm.
your own standalone website. And so I just was reviewing that because I want to either do it myself. He walks you through how to do it, or I want to hire, somebody off Upwork or something to do it for me so that I have my site where I can blog and then post stuff out to other places. But really cool for me. I'm inspired by Derek Sivers. He's one of the guys I really like, him, Tim Ferriss, Naval, people like that, because he's really just wants to give it away and support people to live their fullest lives and be their best selves. And so that's part of his intention behind that. It's just like, hey man, you can have for a few bucks a year, you can have your own email server, your own website, your own everything, and this is how you do it. And I'm just going to walk you through. I'm not charging. Like he doesn't charge for anything he does really. It's like
Yeah.
he made his money once and he doesn't really worry about making money anymore. Just gives everything away. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all I have for this week.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I love
Yeah.
both of you guys. But yeah, so for me, we're talking about it offline, but just been inspired by the ATG guys, and like it's not just him anymore. He's hired like all these different coaches, which is really cool. So it's not totally related to real estate, but if everyone is interested in fitness at all, I recommend looking them up. They just got kind of a different approach to fitness than the traditional approach, and it's really helped me get over some nagging pain and stuff like that. So I'm inspired by him and how they continuously seem to improve their app and come up with new products and stuff, and just seem to be wanting to help more people. So I think that's really cool. But another one that's more related to business was I watched this thing that Alex Hormozy did. He did it with the Shopify guy. I don't know if you watched that one. Um,
Mm-mm.
but I thought that was just very inspiring because they had this cool tracker behind them, and they did this I think right on the day of Black Friday. And obviously he's the president of Shopify, the founder of Shopify, so he has all the data. and they literally had this live tracker, and it got up to I think $3 or $4 million in sales per minute. So every minute they were doing $3 or $4 million in sales throughout. This is throughout all the Shopify stores like combined, but I just thought that was just
Yeah.
insane. Like I have no idea what that might be if you multiplied it by all the minutes in a day, but that's just insane to think about. And so I just thought that was so cool. And I think they had other data too, like I think it was 30,000 shoppers or something like were live every minute, something crazy like that. I don't know. It was insane numbers. And then that wasn't the main focus. They kind of went through all these big companies like Gymshark was one of them, BarkBox for dogs. There's like a makeup brand. There's a couple different brands, but they kind of just went through their websites and showed you like takeaways that you can do to improve your website, which is not totally applicable to me, but I just thought it was really cool, like all the data that they were going into and stuff. And the main inspiration for me was just seeing how much money is spent and also earned by the creators on Black Friday. I just thought that was crazy, and that's just through Shopify. So it's not including anyone who hosts on a different platform. So just think about that.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy.
Yeah, Amazon's not on Shopify, right?
Yeah,
That's gonna be
I don't know how much market share they have, but I'm sure it's not the whole market. So so yeah, that was insane. And then another one actually was cool is that I think I told you this offline, but Taylor Allen, which is the guy who I bought a bunch of training programs from in high school, has kind of transitioned to becoming more of like a business and spiritual development coach, which is cool. And so he posted this long video, kind of like Alex Hormozi style, but in his own thing, which is about just business and growing business and stuff. And that was really cool to me just to hear all the tactics that actually went behind like growing the business that I was a part of as a customer of. So I thought that was really cool. And just hearing kind of the stories of how he did it, he really used affiliates a lot. And I think he said he paid his affiliates 75%, which is really interesting because when you pay your affiliates that much, they're very incentivized to promote your product, obviously. And so that was pretty cool. And then he shared something else about a different guy who I forgot his name. And he actually paid his affiliates double. So whatever they would bring in, he would pay them double. And so he's losing money on the front end, but because his customer lifetime value, what Alex Mosey always talks about, is a certain amount, he was making money. Obviously, he's profitable, but he knew his numbers so well that he was like, I'm going to pay my affiliates double because then they're going to send me as many people as they possibly. So if they sold a $100 product, his affiliates get $200. But because he knows on the back end his customer might be worth, I don't know, $5,000 or something, he's still coming out in the end profitable. So I thought that was really cool. That kind of like broke my brain for a second, but
yeah.
I got a lot of takeaways from that. So that was cool too. But yeah, that's it for me. So next we'd like to jump into our business check-in, just share about victories, challenges, and any things that we picked up on and learned over the past week. So you want to jump in on that?
Sure.
All right.
We had a good week to start December. We closed 2 deals, which is great. And we
Awesome.
sold 2 deals. And so that gives us a chance to, maybe close those in December or maybe
Yeah,
I'm not sure when they are supposed to close.
that's great.
But yeah, we sold 2, closed 2. And so that's a great way to start the last month of the year. And we had, let's see, I wrote my KPIs down on this yellow pad. We had 1 contract this week. We made 17 offers, which is a lower number of offers. Normally, we're more like 30s, in the 30s, so that's like half as many offers as we normally make. Our leads were at 60, so that's not bad for us. It's a little bit lower than we want to be, but the offers might be slightly down because we're working on quality over quantity here still, and so we're trying to. And also, we were in Durham, which is a big market in North Carolina, one of the most popular markets in North Carolina. I think some of those leads that we got were not such great leads by the time we looked at them a little bit more deeply. You know how it is, Jasper. If you're in, this is probably true if you're in any really competitive market. Sometimes when you're getting leads, they're just not as great quality because all the good ones have been snatched up because it's so competitive.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so our offers were a little bit down. We still sent out 17. We added 30 buyers, which is great. We have a guy in dispositions who shoots for adding 5 buyers a day on average, and so we surpassed that with 30 this week. And that's something we're doing just to. We've talked about that on this pod before, but the more you build your buyer list, the easier sales become.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's the KPIs. We had 8 in escrow when we started December, the beginning of the month, that were set to close in December. And
That's
then we
amazing.
closed 2 this week. So that's a great start. We have 6 more that we can still close this month. And I think a few of those are scheduled. We were supposed to close 3 this week and one got pushed. So we got 2 scheduled for next week. Linda's next weekend. 2 scheduled for next week, and then we've got like 4 scheduled the following week. So that's always a little bit dicey because that's the last week before Christmas. But
Yeah.
I'll be optimistic and say we can still close 8, and my team's working hard to do that. So I think we can do it.
That's great.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to finish out the month. And then I had a couple of tips, and then a couple I can tell just a little bit more about the deals that we closed. One is I shared with you, Jasper. I'm trying to get my typing speed up because I do want to do more social media stuff and more blogging and things. And so I found typing.com, which maybe people already know about, but I'd never heard of it. And I think it's really cool because you just go on there and it just gives you stuff to type, and then it gives you your words per minute and your accuracy, and it just walks you through. You can just keep, it's kind of like Duolingo or any of those language learning apps where they just keep increasing your difficulty, and you can track yourself and your results and set goals and stuff. So anyway, that was fun. If anybody wants to improve their keyboarding. And then smartphone dialer, I just want to talk about this. Maybe we should just do a brief dialer segment just
Yeah,
for people
let's
who
do
are
it.
looking at multi-dialers, because I don't have as much experience as you do, Jasper. I think you've used Call Tools and Mojo Dialer and maybe a couple others. But
Mhm.
I can just share my experience with this, and then if you want to check in a little bit about what your opinions are on other dialers. We
Yeah.
um we were excited to find that Smartphone had a dialer because we use Smartphone in conjunction with Podio, which is our CRM, and we use Smartphone for a lot of texting and calling and everything. And so we set up a dialer and put a cold caller in there, and she started dialing multiple lines, and we've had just a lot of flack from Smartphone about our connectivity rate, our duration of call, and they've just been giving us a really hard time, and telling us we have to fix this, we have to fix that, we have to improve this, we can't, blah blah blah. And so we're abandoning them. I think ease of use and setup was great with them, and we were excited to start with them, but we just can't. We either have to straight up lie to them, but we can't even lie to them because if we wanted to, I mean, we're not lying to them. We're just telling them what we're doing. We're like, hey, we're a real estate company calling sellers, and they don't like that we're skip tracing the sellers, that they're not completely opted in sellers, and they just don't like a lot of stuff about what we're doing. So I don't know why they're, uh, I don't know, maybe we misread what they're offering or what you can do on there. So we're going to switch over and try Call Tools next week is our thing. And um, Ollie, who is our operations guy, has used Call Tools and likes it, and so we're onboarding with them for next week, and we're phasing out Smartphone. So that's my experience with Smartphone dialer, and it wasn't good for us. We used them for a few weeks, and now we're phasing them out. So you want to just do a brief dialer segment, Jasper, since you've got more experience with that than me?
Yeah, absolutely.
You like running through the ones that you've used and your feedback or your um, experience?
Definitely. Yeah, so I would say for anyone who's just getting started, I think I would still recommend it today. Is Mojo Dialer is the easiest to use in my opinion, and just the least technologically advanced one. And so that comes with the pros and cons because number one, it's easy to set up, it's easy to use, but you're not going to get the great like power and results that you might get with other ones. But I would recommend it to anyone who's new who might be doing the calling themselves. Once you start actually hiring cold callers and hiring a team, I would not recommend Mojo because, like I said, it's just not advanced as the other ones, and you're not going to be able to dial as many lines. They max out at 3 lines. Some of these other ones you can call 10 or 12 at once. And their connectivity, I just noticed when I started hiring people, is just not that good. I think it's optimized for people that might be living in the United States and doing the calls themselves. And I think maybe there's something to be said about people that are not in the United States using it because I just noticed connectivity dropped quite a bit when I started hiring virtual assistants to use Mojo. But anyways, I would say that's kind of like at the lowest end in terms of like setup and stuff like that. Like this is the easiest one to use. But then after that, I would recommend Ready Mode for like kind of the sweet spot in between. And that's what we're using right now. You know, that's what we use via Call Geeks because that's what they use. And so I like that one a lot. It's kind of looks like, if anyone's familiar with Velocity REOs, it looks like their website, like it's very old school and it doesn't really look very fancy, but it works very well. And you can dial up to 10 people at once. And you know, it's very powerful, and they help you like recycle your list within the thing, and they help you. So what's cool about them is you can buy a bunch of caller IDs. So when I signed up with them and I was managing my callers, I bought 100 caller IDs, and they put that in what's called a pool. And what they do is they just cycle this for you automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. That's one downside of Mojo, is that's a manual task you have to do. With these guys, you buy a bunch of numbers, and they recommend, I think, something like 20 numbers per caller or something like that. And then they're just going to recycle those constantly for you in the background, so that you're never coming up as spam. So they'll basically like let your caller do, for example, 100 callers with this phone number, and then they'll switch it. And then 100 callers with the next phone number, and they'll switch it. And so you're never getting spam that way. So I really like that about Ready Mode. And then as far as call tools, it's been a long time since I use it, so I don't want to give anyone, you know, bad advice there. I signed up with them probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I just remember, for me personally, you know, if you have someone managing it, totally different story. But for me personally, it was just really hard for me to wrap my head around it, and I just couldn't even get set up. It was like too advanced for me at the time, and that really frustrated me because I was coming from Mojo, which was so straightforward and easy. And then I went to Call Tools, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, it almost felt like I needed to learn how to code to even get into their software. And so that was, like I said, about 4 or 5 years ago that I experimented with them. And so I pretty much cut that off pretty quickly. But I have heard from the majority of people that that is like the best dialer, and it's the most powerful dialer. And so I would recommend it on that sense if you're more technologically savvy, or you have a cold caller or someone on your team like you do who's going to help you set it up. So I think Call Tools is at the top of the line from everyone that I've heard. I think Matt Larson uses them too. So I think that's like the best. But in terms of like the middle ground, I would say Ready Mode, and then probably top of line would be Call Tools. And pricing, I'm not so sure what Call Tools is at. For Ready Mode, it's 90 bucks per seat, and then you have to pay for numbers. And then for Mojo, I think it's 130 bucks a seat, so they're more expensive, and you have to pay for numbers. So I'm not sure what Call Tools pricing is, but that's those two. And then
Yeah, I had it somewhere. I don't know if I can grab it quickly, but go ahead.
I want to say Call Tools is 120 a seat, something like that, but I don't remember.
I think that's about right. And there's a little bit of a setup fee. It's like $100 setup fee,
Yeah,
maybe. And I think you're right. I think it's 120 per seat.
yeah,
Let's
and
see.
that's pretty much
I've
what you
got,
can expect to pay, somewhere around there.
I've got it here. Call Tools is 120 a month per user and $4 per number.
Yeah, so there you go.
And smartphone actually was 180 for 2 users and logins, $5 per number. Anyway, he just gave me a little study on it. That's why I had it. I was able to find it.
Yeah, I think smartphone and Ready Mode, I think they're both the same at 90 bucks per user. And then I think
Yeah.
Mojo and Call Tools are more expensive. But like I said, I think Call Tools is the best from everyone I've heard. Only thing that I have heard that I haven't experimented with myself is one called Kixie, Kixie. I've heard a few people using that, and apparently it's like a more AI type, like a more 2024 type dialer, you know? And so I've had a few people that I know that are using that one, and they like it. And I think you can use it similar to smartphone, where it can be a dialer and kind of like a phone system for you. So I might actually look into that, because you know, I've had my issues with smartphone as well. But as far as my use with smartphone, I've had issues before we even started using their dialer, just with texting and calling, which is frustrating. But for us with the dialer, the only people that we're calling with a smartphone dialer are people that are in our CRM. So maybe they have issues with you calling like new, fresh data and stuff. Maybe that's
You
what it
you
is.
can't do it. You can't do it with their dialer. Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
going to shut you down. That's what we
yeah,
found. Is they want your connection rate to be above whatever 45 or 50%, and then they want your call duration to be above a certain benchmark, and we just weren't hitting it because we're doing, multi-dialing skip trace leads,
yeah,
so yeah, don't do it if you're trying to do it to hit fresh leads. Like Jasper said, if you're using it within your system with people who've already opted in, then that's different.
yeah. Yeah, so that's good feedback. So yeah, so don't use smartphone for cold calling. You can use it for warm calling. And then Mojo and Ready Mode I have experience with, and pretty soon you can probably report back on call tools. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Thanks for checking in on that.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll just go through my closed deals briefly, and then I'll hand it over to you, Jasper. We had 2 closed deals this week. One was a house that I have checked in about on previous podcasts. It was what we called a hoarder house. It was just piled high with junk everywhere, and maybe some valuable stuff in the mix. But the seller really refused to. She refused to, I guess this is my opinion, listen to reason about like filtering stuff out and choosing what was good. And, she just kept insisting we had to move every last thing in that house. And that was frustrating. Um, and so, eventually, Jasper, you talked some sense into me, and we're just like, basically, you said, just figure out a way to get it done. Just move all the shit and let her deal with it later.
yeah,
Um, and so the trick was finding movers because we were trying to be honest with the movers and just be like, this is a hoarder house. This is filled with trash. It's here are the photos, just so you know what you're getting into. And everybody's like, yeah, that's a mess. I don't know if I want to touch that, or we're gonna have to wear hazmat masks or whatever. And
yeah,
so finally I found a really cool guy in Raleigh, and he did the job and he did a great job. I'm very grateful for him. He got a 4-man crew and they went in there, and the seller was there with her daughter, and glory be, they actually let the guys pull out the good stuff and leave a bunch of junk behind, but they would not talk to us about doing that. So
yeah,
uh, that the daughter helped talk some sense into the mother. But anyway, they were able to get down there. He said they had to climb over and under stuff and around things and pull things out, and there was a piano in the mix and all this stuff, and they got everything on the truck, and he said it barely fit in their storage on the other end, which I was concerned about, like, if they had anything in that storage, because they told me the dimensions, and the dimensions would work, but I was like, "Are they shooting us straight?" And it was a funny
yeah,
story because, like, Derek, my brother who does disposition, he was trying to call the storage that they had, and it's in, like, Bladenboro, North Carolina, which is in the middle of nowhere,
yeah.
and the storage facility was, like, a family business that was on a property where they had, like, a barbecue joint, and so he's trying to call and verify that these storage units are available with the seller, and they're like, "Sorry, we're in the lunch rush right now. We're serving barbecue," you know? And then they didn't really have great records or, like, manual records and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we think they have them." And then they've it took him, like, 2 or 3 calls to, like, calling the people in the restaurant to, like, find out if the storage, because we had to, like, this is the thing about this is if anything goes wrong at any point, then these guys are sitting there with a truck full of junk and nowhere to put it, right? And so I
Yeah,
was trying to get the seller to sign an addendum that says, like, yeah, we'll load the truck up with stuff, but if we get to the storage and there's not enough room, it's on you, right? Um, and we kept trying to do addendums, and they kept pushing back and fighting us on it. And, you know, anyway, it was a huge mess and it was very stressful. And thank God it's finally done. And, sorry, I just heard a car horn. Um, it, it, I'm oversimplifying it because it was a long road for me and my
oh
team
yeah,
to get to this point. It was a very
yeah,
long road. A lot of conversations with the seller, a lot of reaching out to movers, and like even dealing with buyers. And then then the other wrinkle was this buyer that we were working with has been a difficult buyer for us. They have never really just been easy. They always find issues, or try and negotiate the last 1,000 or 2,000 out of the deal, or get mad at us because they think we should have given them a better price and then drag their heels on closing, whatever. It's just like this kind of
yeah.
stuff. And so the movers get there the day of the move, and the guy calls me and he's like, the lockbox isn't here. And I'm like, what? And so then I called my brother who does most of the property stuff, and he says, well, the only thing is these buyers took it when they were there, so nobody else could look at the house. And so the guys had to break into the house. So, I guess one of the lessons out of that is just work with buyers who are professionals and who treat you the way you deserve to be treated, because I think we're firing these buyers at this point. We've done like 3
Yeah.
deals with them, and every deal has just been one thing after another. Actually, we've done 4 deals with them now, and I guess 1 or 2 of them were okay, and then, 1 or 2 of them have just been really really frustrating. And I don't think they've closed on time on any deal we've done with them, because they're working with a business partner and funding the deals and stuff. And it's just like, this one was supposed to close on Tuesday. And this is the other crazy thing about it. And maybe I'm bitching too much. You can tell me to shut up. I'm just trying to share.
No, I want to hear the
Hopefully this
story.
is, hopefully this is enlightening for some people, but it's just like, it was going to close on a Tuesday, and so I'm working on a tight schedule getting the movers in there on Tuesday, because the buyers would not give us an extra day to move the stuff out. They would give us no leeway, right? So like, no, it's got to happen, You get first they wouldn't even give us a day, and then finally we got them to sign an addendum to give us 1 day after the closing day. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, so it's supposed to close on Tuesday, and I had the mover scheduled for Wednesday. Then the closing got pushed to Wednesday because of the buyer. Seller had done everything. They signed, which was a miracle that we got the seller to sign everything because I had to, I had to get on the phone with the seller while the notary was there because she didn't like one of the documents and she didn't have the HUD yet, and blah blah blah. It's just all this stuff. And so finally we get the seller all signed and we're good to go and close on Tuesday, so the movers can be there on Wednesday and get stuff done. And movers have stuff scheduled every day. And so then the buyers pushed off the closing to Wednesday, and then they pushed it off to, then on Wednesday, they're like, oh no, we can't close today. And so then we had to take a leap of faith and pay the movers and have them move everything, even though I did not want to pay them before everything was closed, because otherwise you look at a situation where we've paid to have the seller stuff moved and then we don't close, right? Is worst
Yeah.
case scenario. And then we've just paid, it cost us $3,500 to move these sellers because of the
Wow.
condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's because of the conditions and because it was a 26-foot truck full to the rim with all the stuff. And so anyway, that was like more stress put on us from the buyer because then we had to make a call, with the movers coming of just like, okay, well, we're gonna have faith that these guys are gonna close, but we don't know. And they finally ended up closing on Friday when we were supposed to close on Tuesday. So the seller's not super happy either because they're waiting for their money.
Hmm.
They were happy that we moved all their stuff and that the movers were great. And shout out Comfort Zone Movers in Raleigh. That's the name of the company, Comfort Zone.
Nice.
Benton is the owner. He's really great. Found him on Yelp. But yeah, so that's that story. And we sold that in November 16th. I just looked it up and then we closed it. We closed it in 3 weeks from the time we sold it, I guess. But it was just like pulling teeth with the buyer and then the seller. I don't know when exactly we contracted it. I could look at that, maybe find it quickly. But this is also the one where our first photo guys went to the wrong address and caused a huge stir, made a big mess.
Hmm.
We contracted this. When did we contract this? Date of, just trying to see what the timeline was on it. Date of deal September 13th. So October, November. That's 2 months plus 3 weeks. So yeah, like 11 weeks to 12 weeks to close that from the time we got it.
Wow. Yeah.
Just a lot of that was just dealing with the hoarder situation and access and all that. But we did have a couple week delay because we started with the wrong property, which is a story we have another
Yeah.
podcast. And then, so anyway, I guess what are the lessons here? Choose your buyers well. Like if you have options, don't go with people who are difficult, and don't feel like you have to deal with buyers who are difficult because there are more buyers out there. If it's a good deal.
Hmm.
And then with hoarders, I don't know what the lessons are here totally. We're gonna do an SOP, a standard operating procedure, for if we ever run into this again. But I think one lesson for me is like, if you're the acquisitions person, make sure you get photos of what we're agreeing to move before you agree to move it, because that didn't happen this time. The
Hmm.
woman was like, "Hey, can you move my stuff?" And the person in acquisitions was like, "Yeah, sure, we can do that." and and uh, and so now in the future, it's like we are sometimes able to move stuff. We'd like to see photos of what we're moving and have an itemized list before we commit. Like
Yeah.
that'll be one thing we'll put in place, and then maybe have an allowance, like a limitation on the allowance. Obviously, depending on the profit that you make, maybe your allowance is bigger. But on this one, because we spent so much money on the move and putting lock boxes on and doing other stuff there, the profit was not that great. It was like we were set to make 15, and by the time we're done, we're probably making 11 or a little less than 11, I think, on it.
Yeah.
So, it's $11,000, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not a great profit. So, um, we really shouldn't have been spending $3,500 to move them. Anyway, and then the other one we closed was a little simpler. It was a vacant lot with a VIP buyer, so those are always great. And we had the VIP buyer, we sent it out to him, and he said yes. And we set a closing date and closed. I don't know, 3, 4 weeks later. And we did have one hiccup with that because it was a very strange. It was like a triangular lot, and the buyer called me up and said, "Hey, man, I've just done my survey on this, and like the setbacks make it really weird for the what type of building I can put on there because I have like a really narrow dimension. I'm going to have to get another set of building plans. I don't have anything like this guy is a guy who builds like, I don't know, a couple hundred houses a year. So
Yeah.
he's got building plans. He's just got a whole Rolodex full of building plans, and he's like, I don't have any plan that fits this dimension, so it's going to cost me like 1,500 to 2,000 for a new building plan. Would you give me a price break on this? And we gave him a $1,500 price break on it because he's a VIP and he buys stuff and he's professional and he just knocks it out. So that's night and day, the buyer experience, right? This guy says, yes, I want it. He goes under contract. He gets his survey. He says, I've got an issue. Can we work
Yeah.
on this? We did work on it because the last deal we did with him, we made 15 or 20,000. So we figured we could give him 1,500 on this one because, he had a real issue. He's not a guy who tries to grind us down on our price. He just usually takes the price we give him and buys it. So
Yeah.
that's the type of buyer I like to work with. Somebody who's actually professional. And what I've found too, we do a lot of land, but professional buyers for land will just say, and this is true of houses too. These are my numbers on this. This is how it can work for me. This is the price I could do it at. And it's not like trying to grind you or trying to hold the last deal over your head or anything like that. Like with this other buyer, it's just like, this is what works for me. If we can make a deal, great. If it doesn't, we can't. That's okay. And that's fine. That's just business. But um, and I don't know. The point of that is some people just are professionals and just shoot you straight. And
Yeah.
and that's who I want to work with. So that's
Definitely.
all I got. Victories, we closed 2 and we got 6 more to close in December potentially. So
Yeah.
looking
That's awesome.
grateful for that.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got that super difficult one out of the way early.
Oh, such a relief. Such a
Yeah.
relief.
That
Yeah.
was great.
A huge relief to get that done.
Yeah.
Hopefully
That's
everything
awesome.
else is just gonna feel easier after that one.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for your support on that too.
No, that's
I
great.
was
Thanks for sharing.
I was trying to battle with the seller and get them to agree to like, jettison some stuff and put some stuff in a dumpster and move less stuff. And, you were like, just get this shit moved for them and let them deal with it. And that
Yeah.
was really the right answer. It's just like, I'm not going to talk sense into this person that,
Yeah.
in their mind, everything is valuable there, even though it looks like a pile of junk to me. So I just have to move it.
Yeah.
So, so thanks for that. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's hear about your week.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That was great. And that's just, for anyone listening, it just goes to show you what we have to go through sometimes on these deals. And but
I'm not
luckily,
even getting granular on it too. Like I could go into some of the conversations and some of the
yeah.
stuff. It's,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's why there's a market for wholesalers, because we solve problems that real estate agents are not going to help you solve. They're not going to do that for you. And that's where we come in. So just really helping people out and, customize solutions too. So but yeah, so I wanted to share with you and anyone listening too. So what we do is anytime, someone mentions that, we try to give them like a corporate type vibe where it's like, yeah, like absolutely, we'd love to help you with moving. We offer you a $500 moving allowance. And so that way we put it back on their plate to where it's like, hey, we'll give you $500, but like you have an allowance to do it yourself, essentially. You know what I mean? And so that's what we do. And so we had a situation pretty recently that was nowhere near as bad as yours, but it was an older dude. And the similar aspect was that he had a bunch of loose stuff, and he just, he's an older guy. He's not going to spend time putting that stuff into boxes. And so we told him about the $500 allowance, and we helped him find the movers and stuff. Typically, we just offer people that as kind of like a cash incentive, and then they can sort out the movers and stuff like that. But for him, we found him the movers, and then they went and did like try to do initial estimate, and said the same thing that you shared, which is just like there's just stuff everywhere, like there's loose stuff everywhere. There's nothing's packed at all. And so I was just like, well, how much are you going to charge us to just box everything for him? And so we just went that route, and they just boxed all the stuff up and moved it. And so it was a little bit extra, but much less than yours. I think it came in around 850 or something for the whole job. So
Oh my God.
it was much less. And I think yours might have had to do something with the distance too, because Bladenboro's in the middle of nowhere. And so, so like thankfully my property was in Durham and the storage unit was also in Durham. So it wasn't that bad. but yours, like, I think you were what, Laurenburg to Bladenboro? Like, I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, it was Maxton was the town, Maxton to
okay,
Bladenboro. That's I think it was like 40 mile. No, maybe not even that far. Anyway,
okay,
they did it in less than 8 hours, the entire thing, but they had a 4-man crew, which is part of
yeah,
the cost. And they charged us travel time from Raleigh to Maxton and back. And
yeah,
they charged us a little extra to move a piano, and then they charged us for the packing supplies, which were a lot of money, boxes
hmm,
and all that, and the time to pack.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that sounds fair for an 8-hour job. It's not, movers aren't cheap.
Actually, he gave us a break on it. He gave us a little bit of a break because they packed less than they thought, so it was actually 3,200. I'm just remembering it wasn't 35. He quoted
Yeah,
35 and he gave it to me for 32.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, yeah, that's awesome. But I just want to share that. And for people listening too, sometimes, if you're working with a buyer that wasn't, it's kind of frustrating as a buyer you work with, sometimes a buyer might be willing to pay for that or at least split it with you if you're dealing with a difficult seller like that. So just an option maybe for some of the better buyers or the VIP buyers that we work with, they might be willing to help out. But yeah, just wanted to mention that, but I'll jump into mine. Um, so this week was a great week for us as well. So it's feels like we're carrying some momentum going into next year, starting off the new year strong, hopefully. But for this week, we got 3 contracts signed. We sold
nice.
four properties, which was awesome for us.
Wow.
Yeah, to do 4 in one week. I don't know what our weekly record is. I have to check, but that was pretty good. And then we closed one deal, and then I got a small fee for a memorandum. So I guess that's kind of like closing a deal, but it was a small fee. So yeah, that was our week. And then I could check in terms of leads and offers. We're at 111 leads this week and 162 offers. So pretty insane there. Our offers have increased quite a bit, obviously, because I hired another or promoted someone else to acquisition. So now we have 3 acquisition. So now we're doing, somewhere around 150 offers a week, which is, not written offers. These are verbal offers, but we're doing really well with offers. And I think that's why the contracts are picking up too. Because we're averaging right now about 8 to 10 offers per day per agent, which is awesome. I'm very happy with that. Everyone's firing on all cylinders right now. And I think it's partly, Christmas right around the corner. We all want to close a bunch of deals before Christmas. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, so this week was great for our sales. So I just wanted to share with everyone. And I've shared this in the past on other pods, but Easy Text has been a total game changer for my business. So I'm just going to keep saying it until everyone adopts it. But it's been a game changer for us. And so one thing that I also implemented this week now going forward. So we're still manually calling investor-based buyers for all the investor-based buyers. That's working very well also. But one thing that we also added is that we are searching up investor base for every deal that we get under contract. And then what we do is we're calling those buyers, like I said, but we're also exporting that list, immediately import it to Easy Text, and we're also including them in our SMS blast. So these people are getting blasted by us on a different phone number and then called by us on a different phone number. So we're hitting them both sides, same as we do with the sellers, cold call and text. And I think that's working very well. So we're meeting new buyers. I sold 2 properties this week to buyers I've never met, never spoke to before, which is super exciting. And it's just given us a lot of activity, like I shared. Like I could check on our weekly offers this week. Don't know how many offers we got this week, but it was quite a bit. And so let me see if I can find that. Yeah, so 22 just this week, 22.
That's
And
great.
so if you put that in perspective, last month we got 35 offers for the month, and we got 22 in
Yeah.
a week. So that's huge. And obviously it's because we had 4 deals to sell, so that's only an average of like 5 offers per deal. But like I shared in the past, sometimes we would get 1 offer per deal, and then we don't even know what's going on. It's like
Yeah.
now we're getting 5 per deal. And even sometimes I'm not the best at it. So sometimes if I might speak to a buyer or text a buyer, I might not import that in Podio. I need to work on that. So we might have a couple other offers that I didn't add into Podio. But either way, 22 for this first week was great. And what else? I wanted to share one other thing that that's the other thing I want to share. So on one of these properties we used, shout out to you for this, we used Express MLS listings, my first time using them. And shout out to you for that tidbit. But I had never worked with them before. I love their whole process. It's super easy. Their website is great. A lot of
Yeah.
these other online listing companies are like weird and like you use PayPal and like it's kind of weird. But with this one is like super straightforward. You can tell they're from the 21st century and they're very good customer service and everything. So, anyways, the story
Yeah.
on this one is the property was vacant and on lockbox, and we were just getting crickets from our wholesale buyers. So we ended up listing on the market. And we sign off in our sellers that we have permission to do that. And so with this company, they made it super easy. All we had to do is send them a copy of our contract, fill out the listing, everything. They made it super easy. And so we listed it and it was kind of crickets, but I noticed on Zillow, like it's funny on Zillow, they have this thing which says this listing is expected to sell faster than 90% of homes nearby. And I noticed that and it was on our listing. And I was like, that's interesting because I'm getting no calls. But I was like, maybe Zillow knows something I don't. And so after about 2 weeks on market, I only had one offer and I was literally about to go back to the seller and just cancel it. And then we got a full price offer. And so that's all thanks to this MLS thing. So we only got two offers on this property, but it sold for full price. It just took a little bit of time. And so, with the wholesale side, I'm used to selling fairly quickly. And so I think it was about 2.5 weeks. We only had one offer, and I was like, man, this is a dead deal. But then we, thankfully at the 25th hour, we got an offer. So we signed
That's
it with
great.
the buyer, and it's a new great real estate agent who's Hispanic, which can be a great asset. And like she's representing her Hispanic client. And I spoke to her. She's got a bunch of Hispanic clients, and she said she's looking for a bunch more deals like this. So that was a great connection to make, and that's all thanks to this MLS thing. So anyone who's interested, you mentioned it first, but Express MLS listings is now going to be my new go-to. So that was awesome. And then yeah, on the other one we had I guess I had a couple other things I could share, but one of the other ones we sold was from another buyer backing out on us. And so we had two deals this week that I could share that about. So one of the deals we had contracted with the nationwide buyer that we work with. I don't know if we mentioned on the podcast before. I don't know if we should mention it, but either way, we had this deal sold to them, and it was sold to them for 90, and they totally backed out on me. And so this was after the property was vacant. This was a deal kind of like yours. It took a while to even get to this point. We contracted this, I'll double check, but I think it was July. We contracted this property, and it took the tenants like literally 4 months to move out. They didn't move out until October. And so then October, we finally get the keys. We finally put a lockbox on, all that stuff. And the buyer that we were under contract with just completely ditched us. And so at first I was bummed, but then I was like, wait a second. I took a second look at the deal, and the tenants, which is very rare, actually took all their stuff and cleaned the house out. So it was like pretty much could have been listed on the market. Like it's not a brand new
Wow.
home, but it's in good condition. So I was like, wow, like this is clean property. The downside is it's literally right on the train tracks, and it's in Rayford. So it's not like a Raleigh type property. It's in Rayford.
Yeah.
And it was right on the train tracks. So that's the downside, but it was a clean property, vacant, ready to go, no junk in the house. So I was like, wow. So I took a second look at it, and I was like, I'm going to, resend this out because they backed out on me, but I'm going to resend it out for 95. Sure enough, we were able to get 95. And so it was a blessing in disguise because I made extra 5,000 on the deal that I wouldn't have made if these first buyers had just come through and closed. So I would have missed out on 5K. So that was a huge win for us. And the buyer was awesome. He also bought another property from us that we hope to close later this month. So that was another new connection that I made thanks to that. So yeah, overall it was a blessing in disguise that they backed out on me. And then on my other deal, I guess it kind of evens out because it kind of was the opposite. So my buyer backed out on me, and then I sold it for I think $3,500 less. So it kind of evens out, but I still end up in the green because I made 5K more and then 3,500 less. So it's still a win. It's still a win overall, but I'm happy that we were able to sell that, and we sold that in one day, thanks to easy texting. So sent it out, and we got 5 offers one day, and got it sold. So that was awesome.
That's great.
But yeah, so I think that's about it. And then oh, I guess one other thing I wanted to share too was that my guy Josh, he's been, obviously helping with transactions at Dispo more and more. And he got this buyer. We had this one property that we were just getting crickets on, and he got this buyer up from 100 all the way to 106.5. And so that was huge because
That's great.
that's his first time like doing that successfully. And he did that, without me asking or anything. And I thought that was awesome because the buyer had offered him 100, and he had like texted me about it. and I didn't see it right away. And I was like, well, let's see if you can at least do 1025. And he was like, oh, well, I already counted at 1065. And he said yes. And I was like, oh, awesome. And so like I'm just happy that that was his first instinct, was to like even think bigger than me. That's essentially what it was. It's like I was just like,
Yeah.
well, let's try to squeeze out 2,500 more. But he was like, no, like I'm gonna go to 1065, and it worked. So I'm just very happy about that. That was awesome. That was a huge victory.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
yeah. Um, yeah, other than that, oh, that's the other thing I wanted to share. We had another deal this week that was revived thanks to this company that I shared on a podcast a while back. But either way, I want to share this with you and anyone who's listening. So Require is a great success. So now I'm going to use them on every single deal. And so there's a company out in Florida, and they're a title services company. I paid them $500 plus a $50 rush fee. And the rush fee is kind of a joke because it still took 30 days, but they they totally did it. And so I shared about you with this deal before, but I had this deal on a contract since August, sold in escrow since August. And this deed of trust, I've been successful with a couple of them in the past, but they're sometimes can be a real pain in the butt. And so on this one, I was just banging my head against the wall. I could not find this people. Like it was sold to, it was a veterans mortgage, so a VA loan. Then it was sold to Bank of America. Then it looked like it was sold to Countrywide, and then it looked like it ended up at Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank is impossible to get a hold of. All those other banks, I spoke to them, they're like, no, we have no record of them. Deutsche Bank, I just was like, there is no chance. And so I heard about this company called Require, and I reached out to them, like I said, paid them the fee, and they said 60 to 90 business days is their time frame, but with the rush thing, it's 30 business days. So I was like, okay, just give it a shot. And sure enough, they got it this week, and now we're hopefully going to close next week. So that was a deal that I literally had no idea if we were ever going to close it. And thanks to this company, we're now going to be able to close it. So um, obviously, they're not going to probably share how they found this person, but they found it, and all they did was just email me back. They're like, hey, we found it. Here's the satisfied, or here's the notarized release already filed with the county. And thanks for your business. And I was like, wow.
Great.
And
Wow.
so, and so going forward, anytime I run into DOT, I'm sending it to them immediately. I'm not going to spend any time on it myself because it's well worth it. $500, well worth it. You could even have your buyer probably pay for that. So well worth it. So I'm very pleased with them, and I wanted to share that with anyone listening. If you just Google Require Title Services or something like that, you'll find them. They're based in Florida, and
Require,
amazing.
like Require.
Yeah, just like the word require. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can probably drop a link in the description as well. But they were awesome. So like I said, anytime you run into a deed of trust or something similar to that where you just can't find paperwork, they don't work with estates, I don't think. I think it's mainly like these liens that we run into. But you can go on the website, I'm sure, and find more information. But that was just a huge victory for me because now we can finally close this deal. So that was like a deal that I had wrote off, and now it's come back to the table. So that's like a Christmas miracle. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. So just this week we put 4 deals in escrow for the ones we sold, and then also that one. So we put 5 deals in escrow. One of those in January, but the other 4 in December. So we went all of a sudden from I think having only 2 in escrow in December to now having 6. And we already closed 1. So that's awesome. So yeah, I think you and me both gonna have a big Christmas month. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Knock on
Yeah.
wood.
But yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share. Overall, it was a great week. We definitely had some issues with some sellers that we're under contract with, just crazy family issues and stuff. But overall, nothing crazy.
Yeah, we have one of those. We have one where it's a seller and his ex-wife, and the ex-wife, and so you have to get everybody to sign, the ex-wife and her husband and the seller and his wife. And the ex-wife and her husband are not comfortable with providing the last 4 digits of their social security number for the closing documents, so they won't close. They're
Oh,
just not
wow,
comfortable with that.
wow,
Yeah. That's what's holding up the deal.
that is crazy.
Supposedly, maybe there's some other thing, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
So, yeah. I don't know what to do with it right now. We're kind of just over a barrel, just trying to talk to them once a week and see if they can get comfortable with providing the last 4 of their social security so we can close the deal.
that is crazy. How else are they
Yeah.
gonna get paid?
I don't know. I yeah.
Man,
There's other stuff going on in the background with,
yeah,
maybe we want to keep it in the family and the other father-in-law, blah, 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 this and that, all these, it's like the Hormozy thing about what other decision makers do I have to talk to get this done?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
some other decision makers that are behind the scenes that we need to get
Yeah.
straight with, I think.
Yeah. The husband and wife is always difficult, especially when they're separated already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They signed the sales agreement, but now they're not willing to close. So for whatever
Well, at
reason.
least you got both their signature on the purchase contract, so you do have, leverage there.
Yeah, we already told them that we have the ability to, file a lawsuit. They really don't seem to care that much.
Yeah. That's crazy. They just wouldn't want to get paid and just close it out. That's weird.
Yeah, like I said, I think they want to keep it in the family. I think the ex-wife's side wants to keep it for their
Yeah.
family.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Weird. I hope they
You
can
get that. I
figure
mean,
it
I've
out.
had that before. Like you get all the way to closing, and like, oh, we decided we want to keep it in the family. Now that could be code for we found a higher offer,
Yeah, exactly.
somebody
Yeah.
else.
You never know.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we filed a memorandum on it. Hopefully that protects from different offers, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep.
Part of the job.
Yeah, we always talk about that on the podcast, but since I did have one this week, memorandum thing, I should do the stats on my memorandum thing, but I have to have like a VA go back through and see how many closed because like that would take me a lot of time to go back through. But I wonder like how successful it actually is. But this week, I think that so what I've noticed is being in this business for a long time, like I've closed with a bunch of different attorneys, and I think what the memorandum does is if the attorney knows me, he's going to call me, and if the attorney doesn't, he's going to close. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I think it is. So
Yeah.
because I don't think I can remember getting ever paid from a memorandum on a deal where I didn't know the closing attorney. So I think if they don't know me, they're just like, oh,
Well, it did happen for me.
okay,
It,
okay,
yeah, the one that we did earlier this year. The guy just called me freaking out. He was like, "What's going on? Why did you guys file this memorandum?" And I was like, "Well,
yeah,
it's in our
okay,
contract. We can file a memorandum. You ghosted on me."
yeah,
So it's different from county to county because this just happened. I just had somebody call me like a week or so ago and be like, We're trying to sell to another buyer and there's a memorandum." Yeah, because you canceled my deal.
that's
Like,
hilarious. I hope you have that
yeah.
recorded. I hope you have that call recorded.
but the thing is, some counties, like, you can go on the public record and it puts it in our name, like my
Yeah,
company's name. It shows up as the owner
yeah,
because I filed a memorandum, and so but this one, it could be. You might be right about the lawyers, and it could be the way this was found on the most recent one is that their buyer was doing their due diligence on the property, and they said, "Why is this LLC's name on here?" And then they freaked out and called me. So I don't think it was a
yeah,
lawyer. And I think it might be the same with the other guy, even though I thought he came from a lawyer, but he called me and was like, "Why is this memorandum?" But he might have been looking at his title. I don't know. So maybe you're right. Maybe your theory is right. And it's just that some counties put you listed as the owner. And then if anybody but the attorney looks at it, they're freaking out because they're like, "Why are you on the?" So maybe
yeah,
that's it. Maybe both things are true. Because now I haven't heard back from these people after I told them we needed some money in order to release the memorandum. So maybe
yeah,
the buyer went, "Oh, I bet I can get my lawyer to fix this." And then the lawyer was like, "Oh yeah, we don't have to, we can ignore that and just close." So who
yeah,
knows? But success rate from my experience has been very small with memorandums, very small.
yeah,
Most
yeah,
lawyers, it seems like, just disregard them.
yeah. I think it's like 50-50, maybe less. But
Then when I have a memorandum on a thing that I'm closing with somebody, like I filed the memorandum, but then the sellers come through and close with me, then my lawyer will be like, "Hey, you need to release this memorandum before we can
yes,
close." You know?
yes.
Well, why do the other lawyers don't not do that,
Yeah.
It's very strange.
And that's something I've been curious about because I have the same thing. Obviously, like when I file a memorandum and then we do end up closing, the attorney always asks me, can you terminate this? But sometimes I wonder, like maybe I should just not, and like hopefully they won't get mad at me. But then I could see down the road, like is the next attorney going to actually like see it or are they going to ignore it? And then at
Yeah.
that point, I would obviously terminate it and no problem. But I was just wondering about that. Maybe I should do that, like leave them on and just see if the next sale ends up contacting me or not.
And then it's like you said, it's doing a whole study on all the memorandums you ever filed, because you could go through and be like, "Okay, I've filed 50 memorandums," and then you have to go back through and see if those properties sold to another buyer, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then how many of those sold to another buyer, and then because some of the memorandums we file, maybe they really did change their mind and they like I know that for a fact, a couple of my sellers actually did give it to a family member or something. They changed
Yeah,
their mind.
yeah,
So that actually does happen. But then I think the majority of them are just giving you a story because they want to sell to somebody else who offered them more money.
yeah,
But anyway, I guess at $30 per pop, it's worth it to file a memorandum. And every once in a while, you get some money out of it. And most of the time, you won't. That's kind of, I think, our
yeah.
collective
Pretty
experience
much,
with it.
pretty much. So it's pretty much like investing in a small little stock. Like you might spend 30,000, you might spend $30, you might get a few thousand back, but you might get nothing. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we do what? Like, I don't file them on every property. I only file them when the sellers are being squirrely. So
yeah,
say I filed 20 memorandums this year that cost me $600. And then I think I've made $1,500 because one guy paid me. So
yeah.
I'm,
So you're
I'm
already
in
in
the
the green
black.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And these other people, who knows what'll happen. Maybe they'll come back and say, what can you, I told them I wanted our full amount, and
Hmm.
they didn't even try and negotiate with me. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah,
Little sidebar on memorandums.
yeah. Well, I think that's about it then for this week. Do you have any quotes or anything else you want to share?
Uh, the one I like from Naval, from the stuff I've been listening to this week, is that the purpose of wealth is freedom. And, you know, I like just that thought because everybody's freedom is different. And he says that, like, for somebody from a third world country, freedom might just mean not working a 12-hour a day factory job. It might mean having the ability to work a normal job for 8 hours a day that they like, or, but for somebody else, freedom would mean something totally different. For him, for Naval, it means like getting up in the morning and you don't have to do anything and you have enough money to live your life. And, you don't have to do anything, or you don't have to be anywhere. Right. Which I think is a lot of people's definition of freedom. That is for me, like, um, then you have the mental space to be able to, um, decide what you actually want to do and what you're excited about doing, rather than feeling like you have to do things. So I think that, but everybody's definition of freedom is different. So I just like that quote, is that the purpose of wealth is freedom.
Yeah, I like that.
Boils it down simply. That's what I got for that.
Awesome.
Got anything?
I don't think so. I don't think I have everything ready. But yeah, if I didn't share, I think I might have already mentioned this last week, but I was going through the Hermosi scaling course that's free online. So I think I mentioned that last week. But for anyone who's interested, you can go on his website, acquisition.com, and you can sign up for his, I think you have to sign up for his like email newsletter or something in exchange, but then you get this new course that he made on scaling. So I watched two of the like courses this week. I'm gonna go back through, but he's gotten them like he's separated them by like stages in business. And so if you have like no employees, you're just getting started, or if you have a few employees, or if you have like I think 5 to 10 employees or something. So I watched the one with like 1 to 5 and 5 to 10, and I got some valuable takeaways from both of those. So it's just like him and Layla giving their advice on those different stages. And so yeah, I got some value out of that, but just wanted to mention that
Cool.
because I didn't share it last week.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we'll drop that maybe in the description for the acquisition and for that title company I mentioned, the Require Title Services. Uh,
Yeah.
for
Well,
anyone
we
who
have
might
the
be,
AI transcription now, so hopefully that'll help.
yeah. So for anyone who might be interested in that, and then otherwise, you guys can feel free to message both of us online on social media. You can find us both by name. And thanks for listening. We will see you on the next one.